Perhaps no individual is at the frontier of this technology than one of the forum's young global leaders, Mark Zuckerberg.
Hey, and welcome to Connect. Today, we're going to talk about the metaverse, starting with the most important experience of all, connecting with people. Imagine you put on your glasses or headset and you're instantly in your home space, and it has an incredibly inspiring view of whatever you find most beautiful.
Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta Platforms, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, has excelled in the virtual reality market. A new major initiative from Zuckerberg's company has been the creation of the metaverse, an ambitious undertaking that showcases new experiences in an all-digital environment. After Zuckerberg purchased Oculus, a company that specializes in virtual reality gaming, he planned to make an affordable headset that everyday consumers could have in their homes.
Be able to take your items and project them into the physical world as holograms in augmented reality too.
Although this technology is still in its early stages of development, there are already around 60,000 people who spend hours each day escaping into this digital realm.
For the next week, I'm going to be eating, sleeping, working, and playing in virtual reality. Starting now.
Horizon Worlds, a free virtual reality video game created by Meta Platforms that runs on the Oculus headset, reportedly saw a 10-fold increase in users in 3 months after an ad aired during the Super Bowl, bringing its total user base to 300,000. Zuckerberg described the game as a core to our metaverse vision. While our society is a long way from fully transitioning from the real world to the digital world, global consulting firm McKinsey estimates that the metaverse could present a multi-trillion-dollar business opportunity in the years ahead. It might surprise you to know that much like in the real world, plots of land can be purchased in the metaverse, with prices ranging from a few thousand to more than $2 million.
COVID-19 has irrevocably changed our world. So many of us had to learn how to live differently, to learn how to work, socialize, shop, and collaborate differently. And we are doing all of this online.
Welcome to the session entitled Meta Immersed. We're going to be looking at the rise of AI and of robotic labor and the phasing out of human labor. We're going to be looking at universal basic income, one of the Pope's pet projects. But as you saw in the opener here, Meta Immersed, it's inducting people and inviting them into the virtual plane of existence, a theme we've been touching on in previous seminars, particularly the media mind. We've been setting the stage for this already with living online. We'll hit something from Media on the Brain even about the counterfeit reality that we were talking about back in 2012. But you saw Meta, the metaverse. This is a World Economic Forum thing combined with Zuckerberg's company, formerly known as Facebook, now called Meta. They renamed their company. That's how big and front and center this metaverse concept is going to be. Not just in that one video game where you have your own house you've designed and you go into outer space with these robots and all that. You know, that might be a silly way to get some people involved in it, but when the World Economic Forum is involved, you heard it, $1 trillion in multi-trillion dollar industry. This is where humanity is being taken if we will follow. And they say in the World Economic Forum publications, the metaverse is not just a technology, but rather the future world in which we will all live, reshaping everything humans do, if there's any reason to have humans anymore. But we'll get to that. The metaverse is not just a technology. It is the future world which we will all live in. That's what the World Economic Forum announced. Amazing. Now, the Pope is big with the big tech people. Lots of handshakes and meetings and conversations. And sometimes when he meets with people, he doesn't tell you what they're saying, and they ask, hey, give us a report on what the meeting was about. And they don't always say. And you know what he'll say sometimes? The meeting was the message. So you see the linkage happening here between the Vatican, a entity identified in Bible prophecy, and big tech, who are applying and carrying out globalist World Economic Forum, Vatican, inclusive capitalism, Bilderberg, Agenda 2030, UN agendas. That's all one conglomeration of big corporate globalist entities. But here you have, I started playing it a little early there, but this is a World Economic Forum video on the metaverse. Take a listen to this.
Metaverse, I at least think about it as the next chapter, the next evolution of the internet, except it's the part where it gets less flat. If you think about the primary metaphors for the internet to date have been about web pages and literally two-dimensional objects that we peer at through screens. One of the most important trends in computing has been the computer moves from a basement to our desktop to our pocket. That has happened over the last 50 years. And we believe, I think we as an industry believe, that it ultimately gets closer to the senses, to the eyes, to the hands, to speech. And so keyboard input goes away, and peering at everything through a screen in our pockets eventually goes away. The metaverse is a way of describing the transition into three-dimensional environment.
The promise of metaverse technology will allow us to meet as holograms of ourselves, feeling that we really are breathing the same air in the virtual room in which we're sitting, so that will obviate the need to commute into offices. It will allow teachers to take a class of 12-year-olds to walk the streets of ancient Rome, for a surgeon to help budding medical students to see what surgery is like in a very sort of lifelike environment. That's the promise of the metaverse. It'll take many years to build, and hopefully we can have the debate around the moral, ethical and regulatory issues at the same time, so that we don't sort of bolt those on as an afterthought 10 years later.
Much like the internet, in the metaverse, you're going to have service companies operating different systems with different rules. Some are going to be way more open-ended. Some are going to be rated R. Some are going to be PG, and some of them are going to have sort of more or less strictures around safety and integrity. There will probably be something like a rating system, which we have for film, we have for music, we have for other types of content, so that a parent or a young person can have some sense of what the rules are in their environment they're going to walk into. Just like if you walk into a bar versus a playground, there's a different expectation of what rules govern that place. Some of them are social norms. Some of them are enforced by people who run those institutions.
The metaverse, that technology is going to emerge regardless of whether the company, Meta, wills it so or not. It won't just be, thankfully, it won't just be owned by any one company. Lots of companies are going to invest in the technology and the operating systems of the metaverse. It'll be like a great sort of patchwork quilt, if you like, of different metaverses.
So you see at the end there, the metaverse is going to improve our lives. How do you think it will? Boy, that was an ad for the metaverse or the metaverses. And you heard the part about controlling the social norms and utilizing that term hate speech. Now, when you hear that, think, how does big tech right now allow freedom of speech and freedom of thought and freedom of communication? This is going to be another authoritarian society like the online world already is. And as physical societies and the social contract engaged in with people and their governments to allow a Bill of Rights and have the protection of systems like the First Amendment and the courts to enforce any sort of prohibitions on freedom of speech and freedom of religion, that's all going to be history as people go into a different universe, a different place where they live. So you see the World Economic Forum very much big fans of the metaverse. It won't be cartoonish either, like the weird looking Mark Zuckerberg and stuff. Take a look at this. Already a few years ago, they were able to use AI to simulate what imagery ought to look like with a totally different context. They just input an image of a car driving down the road in the winter. And then AI can take that image and convert it to this. This is not a real picture, but it looks totally real, doesn't it? Here it is when they're actually doing the driving. You can see they do it video style as well. The right picture is an AI-generated reality. It's all of a sudden summer there. They just took the imagery from the winter and turned it into summer. So they can do AI-generated video reality. So you're there as if it's the real thing. The Mark Zuckerberg video might have made it seem like it's cartoonish. No, it's the metaverse is going to be a counterfeit reality like the devil has never been able to invent. He wanted to be the creator. He wanted to be in the position of God. He couldn't do that. He can't do that. But now you have another place for people to escape from. And I know I'm repeating myself from media on the brain and the media mind, but that was all taking us somewhere. Total meta immersed. There's another image, by the way, where they make it a rainy day by AI conversion of the data that's put in. Mark Zuckerberg just signed the death warrant for the smartphone, Business Insider said. Apple is ramping up work on augmented reality headset to succeed the iPhone. And don't celebrate the death of the smartphones too quickly, because that is going to happen. They're going to be phased out. You're going to hear that from the Nokia CEO. But there's some division, some break right now. But when you're totally immersed and involved visually and it's three-dimensional, that's going to be a whole different world that we are a part of if you choose to go in there, which I hope we don't. The metaverse will define the next technological era. You can't help but get excited, said the World Economic Forum. Now, most of us made decisions along the line to accept every new technology, but you remember in the media mind where we had the image of going over the falls, and it's row, row, row your boat, where the media executives take the world. It's an unconscious current, media theorists have said for many years, that we are all on. Make a decision. How do I want to live? What does it mean to be human? These are philosophical questions we really have to ask ourselves. And a couple years from now, 10 years from now, if time lasted that long, and people are all involved in this stuff, it would sound extreme to say maybe we shouldn't go there. But how many of us think maybe there are some uses of apps and smartphone tools that if we would have not gotten involved with to begin with, we would have been much better off? Think about that before the next steps come. Virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, devices will allow for visual input directly to our eyes, and voice recognition will enable us to talk and have conversations with the technology around us. They were talking about meeting up with people online and in the virtual world. Well, you're going to talk to the technology itself as well. More on that in the next session about social robots. Technology will even be able to recognize gestures and derive information from contextual input, like entering a room. So this is all from the World Economic Forum article promoting the emergence of the metaverse and our being inducted into that. Now, guess who else is promoting this VR reality? None other than probably the most notorious occult practitioner in the world today, Marina Abramovich.
I believe that art of the future is art without objects. This is just pure transmission of energy between the viewer and the artist. To me, mixed reality is this answer.
This was a unique opportunity to take the most legendary artists working now and capture them in such a way that they are translatable forever.
If you're a collector, you're trying to find works that break new ground. We here at Christie's believe that this is that. And it will be the first time that a mixed reality artwork is sold at auction.
There was always a question what you buy when you buy performance. You buy the video or you buy the additional photographs. Here, you actually can have the artist's presence in your collection.
The first thing that we had to figure out was you had to feel that you were in the room with Marina, not a document of Marina. So HoloLens 2 was created by people who quite clearly have an interest in the audience forgetting that they are using technology. so the purest expression of artistic intent can happen.
I really want viewer to be with me in the space, in here and now. The life is dealing with what is going to stay after I'm not there anymore. And I can face myself. And that's a frightening experience. Really like you facing your own ghost. There is always this great idea of immortality. Once you die, the work will never die because the work of art can continue. In performance, the piece is only in the memory of the audience and nowhere else. Here, I am kept forever.
So immortality, you'll hear about that again when we talk about the Great Merge and a counterfeit immortality, but here she mentions that in this mixed reality or augmented reality being promoted by, again, I want to take you back to, okay, who is Marina Abramovich and why did you call her the most prominent occult practitioner in the world today? Well, this is from Second Beast Rising, where we covered her involvement with some of the big political names of the time. So just to catch you up on who she is and why that's a concern when you have the papacy meeting with all these big tech guys, and then you've got the World Economic Forum globalists promoting this heavily, the big tech entities themselves, and the spiritualism angle of the world power axis. Here's a little description of Marina Abramovich and her occult angle. It gets very serious when we look at that 2016 progressive WikiLeaks releases that took place during the election season and what it tells us about the power elite. It's not just the Bilderberg Group. It's not just the weird occult blood rituals at the Skull and Bones Society that are done by the Bush and Kerry families and many others who have gone through that secret order. It's not just the cremation of care ceremony with the mock human sacrifice or the weird things that are done in this Texas one. We've got this artist, and I'm going to spare you the details on this. We're not going to get into how actually nasty this is, but self-proclaimed artist Marina Abramovich, who has famously carved satanic imagery in her own skin, stabbed herself in her hands as part of her art performances that they're called, throwing her toenails and nails and hair into a flaming five-pointed star and then jumping inside and she loses consciousness. A lot of weird, nasty, satanic, demonic rituals that she does in the name of art. She also took this medication that caused her into violent muscle spasms, and then most famously her 1974, she put 72 objects out on a table and told the audience they could come up and use any of them on her in any way that they wanted, violently. Anything goes. And there was a gun and a bullet there, and it got crazy. For 6 hours, she stood there and laid there at the mercy of the audience. And here's what she said at the end of that, after she had her clothes stripped off and all sorts of things. She said, "What I learned was that if you leave it up to the audience, they can kill you. I felt really violated. They cut up my clothes, stuck rose thorns in my stomach. One person aimed the gun at my head and another took it away. It created an aggressive atmosphere. After exactly 6 hours as planned, I stood up." Okay, so this is not art. This is of the devil, says it mildly. We don't need to know all the details of everything that they do in these weird rituals. But what is her connection with the global elite? We're talking about putting out your trust in princes. Is this just some crazy random side room occult freak show? Well, no, because there are connections between her and top political figures. First of all, Marina Abramovich was invited to the Clinton campaign launch party. She responded via email at the time that she couldn't make it because she was in Australia doing her performances, doing her artwork, that she calls it. Then Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta, whose emails were leaked, and that was what caused all the controversy and discussion over the WikiLeaks emails from the Clinton campaign. It was John Podesta. Now, Tony Podesta, the brother of the chairman of the Clinton campaign, Tony, the brother, is a huge fan of Marina Abramovich. That's weird and nasty and scary enough. But then, in one of the leaked emails from WikiLeaks, it's Marina Abramovich emailing and inviting John and Tony for a spirit cooking dinner event, hoping that both Tony and John could come. Now, what is spirit cooking? Again, we don't want to know all the details. This is occult. this is rituals of the nastiest order, but it's a ritual that often involves simulated cannibalism, sex rituals, things beyond that I will not describe. And you've got right there, you can see this image in John Podesta's New York City campaign office. You see the picture behind him. It's a painting that depicts cannibalism. And that was a painting that was gifted to John by his brother Tony. And John was famously the one that said in Time magazine, it's better to be the guy with the fork than the guy on the table. Now, you might say that's just a joke, but I don't find cannibalism something to nonchalantly joke about and hang paintings of in the office. That's weird. But here you have Abramovich's spirit cooking dinner that these men were invited to. What is that? Everpedia tells us spirit cooking is an event and central ritual started by Marina Abramovich, who is an artist known for her gory performances. Yeah, I didn't even give you the half of it. And occultist rituals. The origins of spirit cooking can be found in the religion of Thelema, which was founded by, you guessed it, Aleister Crowley. The original ritual, not of the same name, is performed during the cooking of cake of light wafers that is to be consumed during a religious gathering. So that was Crowley's cake of light ritual. The ingredients of the cake of light include honey, oil, menstrual blood, and sperm. The sacrament, as they call it, is meant to symbolize the union between the microcosm, man, and the macrocosm, the divine, yeah, Lucifer, Satan, which is a representation of one of the prime maxims in Hermeticism, as above, so below. The consumption of the cake of light is a fulfillment of the sacred circle of the connection between Satanists and Satan, is really what it should say there. The ceremony of spirit cooking, so Marina Abramovich's, is the modern rendition of the 19th and 20th century rituals of Aleister Crowley's cake of light. Okay, let's take a deep breath and not talk about that anymore. That's really, really not okay, and it's gross and satanic and dark and occult, and that's what the princes of this world find themselves into in many instances. So why the occult loves the metaverse so much, that remains to be seen. Maybe we'll understand that a little more when we look at the God delusion, the great merge, spiritual machines, some of these other themes coming up. But right now I want you to see another clip from the World Economic Forum on how the metaverse is going to become tactile, and you'll be able to feel the metaverse. And then they say in this article that it's going to be gloves and full-body suits that can give your nerve endings sensory experience to feel every sensation that you would feel with regular skin in the real non-virtual world. Mr. Zuckerberg says a new skin-like material could support metaverse ambitions. I've got another clip for you this time, the World Economic Forum promoting this for children. This is where a lot of us, I think, are going to definitely draw the line, making the classroom a metaverse experience so children don't get to learn what it's like to live in the real world, and inducting children, and they pose it in such terms as, you know, we need it G-rated and we need to have it accessible to all, and we're going to make this great for the kids. Take a listen to their pitch on getting your kids involved in the metaverse. So the solution isn't to keep kids from being immersed in this. That studies show they get more immersed and there'll be more believers in this metaverse. The solution isn't to keep kids from it and the inappropriate content that they're going to be seeing in there. Did you notice it was like at first it's warning parents, but then it's no, you need to be active participants in there with them so you can check up on them in the metaverse where they are. This is going to be society-wide, the new place where we will live, the World Economic Forum said. Here's another one on pitching it to kids, this time in the classroom.
But VR isn't the only way to experience an altered reality. A similar scenario is well on its way through another type of technology known as augmented reality. The WEF states that 3.7 billion people are offline, most of whom live in undeveloped countries that don't have the means to connect themselves to the rest of the world. Making VR and AR accepted into the mainstream would, in the World Economic Forum's vision, be the best way to provide, and I quote, technology for sectors such as education, mining, and tourism, all of which were effectively shut down during the current COVID-19 pandemic. These digital realities are in fact mainstream in Western culture, yet not quite as prevalent as the WEF would like. While most people use augmented reality for gaming, the WEF is looking to bring this technology into our schools, or rather, bring our schools to us.
I think any of this going in, and then when I saw it, everything was really nice, and it was actually such a good experience to see this. It's actually so real.
Right, you want to look to your right a little bit, to your right, slowly, up to your right, more to your right.
Oh, it's actually a ship.
Yeah.
Bringing artificial intelligence into education, which could then work in tandem with other advanced data collection techniques, enables not only our mannerisms to be analyzed, but also can allow an individual or organization to dissect almost every aspect of how we function, starting right from our youngest years.
The World Economic Forum develops a joint action plan together with the ITU, the World Bank, GSMA, and our industry partners. It highlights key immediate actions for private-public collaboration to ensure that digital connectivity is available and expanded to those who need it most.
Consider the implications of our own data being harvested right from when we can barely walk and talk, all the way through our formative years and into our early adulthood.
This has already been shared with 170 countries and is in active use. This fast-track partnership is deeply encouraging. A number of our partners have highlighted that we have made more progress in the last 4 months than in the last 10 years.
In the case of the Great Reset, a broad expansion into classrooms will allow major corporations and governments that partner with the WEF to shape our educational system. In conjunction with AI monitoring every student who plugs in, the way virtual reality works, some parents may even have less of an idea of what is being taught to their children than they already do, while also being unaware of what information is being collected from their child's immersive experience and how this data is being used.
Well, those excellent documentary filmmakers really made you think and had plenty of commentary. I have nothing to add to that. You see where this could be taking us. And where did it start? It started with this photo that was released by Facebook years ago. And it was foreshadowing what's coming with the metaverse. It's Mark Zuckerberg while they were still Facebook. And notice all of the regular commoners are plugged in and immersed into their virtual world. But who is the one remaining human, remaining bipedal, remaining walking above the others with a smile of satisfaction on his face? interesting artistic portrayal of the nature of the distinction and the gap and the growing chasm between the corporate masters and the rest of us. And we'll talk about that. There are ideas out there that a new species is evolving, and there will actually be breakaway civilizations and a breakaway species that decouples from the regular folks who refuse the augmentation to their person. But these folks are immersed right there. And Klaus Schwab speaks of this. Remember, we talked about digital identities. He talked about the biological and digital identities being fused together. It's starting to make a little more sense now when you go, oh, they have us living online in the metaverse in a place where our lives will be lived, as you heard in the quotation at the very beginning of this session. It's starting to make more sense why he would say the fusion of our biological and digital identities. We are going mentally to a different place. He also is speaking about things going into us, as we've read as well. The fourth industrial revolution, if you look at the Wikipedia definition, is the joining of technologies like artificial intelligence, gene editing, to advanced robotics that blur the lines between the physical, digital, and biological worlds. So this is a whole new world, a counterfeit creation, an artificial universe, the metaverse, the fourth industrial revolution, blurring the lines and merging the biological, the physical, and the virtual. It also represents a social, political, and economic shift from the digital age of the late 1990s and early 2000s to an era of embedded connectivity, distinguished by the omni-use or ever-present use and commonness of technological use throughout society, e.g. a metaverse that changes the way humans experience and know the world around them. It posits that we have created and are entering an augmented social reality compared to just the natural senses and industrial ability of humans alone. So the fourth industrial revolution defined succinctly there as being part and parcel of the metaverse, us merging with the technology and the technology going to within us, from biosensors to biometric surveillance to brain chips and things that can implant thoughts and all the things we've heard already. There's more coming on that with the merge, the great merge. But I told you I'd bring up a slide again from Media on the Brain. This goes back to 2012 when we were quoting from the book Game Addiction, where Niels Clark, the author, former video game addict and video game addiction recovery specialist, described the experience of being immersed in a video game. And that was only on a plain screen, a two-dimensional plane, where you'd go three-dimensionally in, though, particularly mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and you engage yourself into that counterfeit reality, that fake world that has been emerging already, even before VR goggles and the full immersive experience. It was pretty fully immersive to the video game addict, especially when you hear about this consciousness that he describes. Our minds are set free when we go into this video game world to explore and exercise heightened abilities and senses in a space that still looks and feels real. Sounds like the metaverse, doesn't it? Games take our senses beyond the confines of, I would say, God's reality. At the same time, those sensations also allow the inflation and extension of our consciousness, unique ways of being. So we've been talking about for many years now how the devil is a counterfeit creator. He says God's reality is so confining, so limiting. You can go beyond the confines of God's reality and step into this artificial place, this virtual place, this counterfeit reality. So now he becomes a creator of a different universe. He's a counterfeit creator. And that is referred to as the transcendence. I grabbed that word from a cell phone store, repair store guy, and I was talking about these things with him because he was a big video gamer. And I said, yeah, what do you think about people just like totally immersing themselves? And we were getting in a conversation about it. And he got into a spiritual tone about it, a very philosophical and sober thing. He said, if I could live in there and never have to come out here, I would. What I embrace most about it is the transcendence. Transcendence, that's a religious, philosophical concept. To transcend, to go above what he believes is the limited confines of physical reality, and those who are going to be inducted into the metaverse, the same, the transcendence. I remember reading also that the most hardcore gamers, 20% of them, when you probe and ask them how they feel about life in the video game versus life in the real world, 20% of them say they feel like when they're back in the physical world, they are visitors to a foreign place, that they are foreigners in this real actual world. So you see the creation of this has been ongoing with the massively multiplayer online role-playing games, and even with social media use. People go on there and they think that's their social life, and they're engaging on there, and they're practically living on there. And we have more, you heard this in the media mind, but 4 to 1, for every 1 hour we're with people socializing, we're socializing online, socializing, I have to put that in quotes, in social media, 4 hours, 4 to 1 ratio. Now, when you get everything into a virtual reality, you can recreate anything and everything. I mean, the laws of physics, the laws of nature, and biological limitations can be thrown out the window, and we can just define reality however we want. If human beings, from driving to manual labor to immersing ourselves in the metaverse to having the education there and jobs there and AI taking over, hiring AI taking over all the physical labor, information labor, even writing, music, creativity, art, and things of that nature. It helps us understand why Harari keeps saying things like, what do we need so many humans for?
I mean, previously in history, if you were on the wrong side of history, if you didn't understand what was happening and you lost the competition, then you ended up as some kind of serf or manual laborer being exploited by the people who understand and have the power. Now, if you're left behind, you're facing something far worse, which is to be completely irrelevant. They won't even need you as a serf or as a slave. And then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
Do you have an answer in the book?
At present, the best guess we have is keep them happy with drugs and computer games. Keep them happy with drugs and computer games. The problem is more boredom and what to do with them and how will they find some sense of meaning in life when they are basically meaningless, worthless. My best guess at present is a combination of drugs and computer games as a solution for more. It's already happening.
And he's absolutely correct about that. That is what's happening, and it's been happening, and it's going to continue to happen. But how do people make a living if they're not needed for labor? Well, what do you do with all these humans? You have to start by giving them universal basic income. Then you drug them with computer games and drugs, literal drugs, and the plug-in drug to keep them docile, to keep them entertained, to keep them from rising up because they feel worthless and meaningless because they've been made slaves of this system and serfs in this feudal order. You have to give them enough. You have to throw them enough crumbs. Universal basic income. Everybody has a universal welfare. Everybody's got their needs met by government transfer payments from the big corporate AI billionaires, and they're going to keep the people from revolting by keeping them happy with this, like they've begun in Finland. World Economic Forum has been promoting this on many levels in video and in print. Universal basic income is the answer to the inequalities exposed by COVID-19. And when you poll people in the UK and Canada particularly, and in the West, the US is a little lower, a little bit more pull you up by your bootstraps kind of mindset of rugged individualism. But here you have in Western European countries and in Canada, 3/4 of people say, yeah, I'm all for universal basic income programs. Universal basic income costs are far less than you might think. Here's why, says the World Economic Forum. And last of all, lest we forget the prophetic impetus behind this whole thing. We started with the Pope meeting with the big tech executives who are planning the rollout of the metaverse. And we end with, it was the Pope himself, and we had this clip in COVID Dystopia, that he was promoting a universal basic income in his Easter letter, a universal basic wage. So you have the state, or the corporate state merged money monolith, a mega system of financial capital that can be doled out to the people to keep them at that subsistence level. Then you will own nothing, have no privacy, have no ambition, no identity other than being a cog in the metaverse machine. But you will be captivated with your senses. You'll have an amazing place to live and see and be. It's the place that the future holds for our lives. Will you be meta immersed? Will you be obsolete, outmoded, considered non-essential? You notice how that word started during the COVID times. Oh, those laborers, that job is, that market, that element of the market is non-essential. You're a non-essential worker. You can see the bifurcation in the caste system already developing there. But what will we choose? Choose ye this day to remain a servant of God, not a slave of the algorithm. Choose ye this day to live within God's universe, within God's beautiful, profoundly wonderful, engaging reality, where we can be small c creators. We've been given a power to think and to do, to not be automatons of the technocracy. So while the universal basic income might be quite a carrot to dangle in front of the people to say, ooh, free money, I'll take it, think about how to be self-sustaining. Because once we are dependent upon a system, then that system can exert, if not outright control, then influence over people's what otherwise would be their free choices. So choose today. They may tell you free will, that's over. But I'm telling you, the universe of free will is the real universe, the one that will go on for eternity. Jesus is coming soon, and the kingdoms of this world, which are coming to nothing, will be melting away in the presence of his glory. This world, the elements will melt with fervent heat. And the kingdoms of this world, which are coming to nothing, and the princes of this world, who we put not our trust in, those kingdoms fade and fail. The rock hits the stone image, the stone hits the image of metal at the feet, and the whole thing explodes and blows up into a billion pieces in Daniel 2. And the kingdoms of this world are history. The universe that Satan tried to create is history. The video games, the social media, the online virtual manufactured counterfeit will be something of the past, and we look forward to a better day. A universe, an earth made new, and God's universe cleansed of every form of usurper that seeks to take the position of Creator God. We give him the glory, and we worship him who made heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that in them is. Embrace and enjoy his creation today.